Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at everyone'sacriticpodcast.com, ihatecritics.net. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, all your podcatchers. Subscribe to the show, rate and review the show. It does help us. Give us a 5-star review and let us know about it, and you'll win you'll get a Blu-ray from Sean. What was the name of the production company?
Will Go USA.
Yeah, and we did get a review, and I gotta find where I saved it at. All right. The author of the review is Senninha, Senninha. Ever since my favorite movie reviewer was fired from his radio station in 2020, I haven't even known what's been coming out. I've been listening to this podcast for a month, and it's exactly what I need. The hosts seem to have the same sensibilities that I do, and so far, most of the movies they've liked are the same as me. I'm in. So, nice. Thank you. And I don't know if you know who that is, Sean. If not, if you can reach out to us on Facebook and get us your address, and we'll
send you a Blu-ray.
Yeah. So thank you so much for giving us that review, though. Appreciate it very much. But yeah, that really does help us out. There are a lot of movie review podcasts out there. So the more you guys can help us out with the reviews, the better it is for us in the charts as well. Oh, we are on YouTube weekly. If you want to listen to us, subscribe to our social media outlets, and we will post the link when we go live. Usually Monday nights around 8 to 9 Central Time, somewhere in there. And patreon.com/criticspod, the best way to help support the podcast. You get yourself a title on the show. We did record 2 bonus episodes that should be coming out in the next couple months for Patreon. So if you want to hear those, please subscribe to the podcast, and you can check those out there.
It's unique. Nirvana Nevermind.
Yes, that'll be the first one that we do. That'll probably come out sometime this month, probably sooner than later. And then a little after that, we'll do Metallica, the Black Album. So both albums turned 30, so we thought we'd have some fun with it. TeePublic, if you want some of our podcast merch, I'm wearing our Batman vs. Jesus shirt right now. If you want that, head over to teepublic.com and search Critics Pod. Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast, Willem Dafoe. Or go to ihatecritics.net and click on the TeePublic link.
We love you, Willem Dafoe.
Yes. Let's jump right into the podcast. Let me share the screen for the YouTube viewers at home. And start with James Bond, No Time to Die.
No Time to Die stars Daniel Craig in his final role as James Bond, allegedly. I think this seems pretty definitive. I won't spoil anything, but
he dies.
No Time. Does he? I don't know.
I've heard that.
The whole thing.
I've heard that. I don't know.
Yeah. But basically, this is just the latest in this franchise that is basically just become a series of greatest hits more than anything. The plot here is that Rami Malek plays a guy who's out to get Spectre, the group run by Christoph Waltz Blofeld. He's got a beef with them, and sort of Daniel Craig and his group are sort of caught in the middle. Although Craig's kind of working for both the U.S. and the British, he's not really working for the British intelligence anymore. He's retired, seemingly. But he's been betrayed by his girlfriend, and he's got rid of her, and he's gone off to Jamaica to be by himself. But Jeffrey Wright finds him and drags him back into the spy wars to track down a scientist who's created some sort of weapon that can target specific DNA. So, like, you can assassinate one person in the room without assassinating other people in the room, because you can use their specific DNA to kill them. Which is cool, I guess. Kind of a cool idea. It's not very well executed, but it's a cool idea.
Tough one to execute, but it is a neat idea if you're to do it right.
And it's got, there's some really good things in here. Like, what's her name? Olivia de Armas. I think De Armas. She was in Knives Out. She's in this movie. She's very temporarily in this movie, but Anna De Armas, and she is just awesome in the I think the 10 minutes that she's on screen, she is funny, breath of fresh air. She's the only one who's not basically doing just the greatest hits of James Bond, and I really appreciated her. I thought she was incredible, and I wanted more of her, but she's in and out so quickly. I guess it's kind of better that she's gone fast because she's like the only happy thing in the movie. That's the thing about modern James Bond, is that modern James Bond doesn't allow for any joy whatsoever. So everything, life is pain in the James Bond universe. So if they'd have kept her around for longer, they probably would have ended up torturing her, I imagine. So this whole thing plays out. He's going to grab the scientist. Rami Malek will eventually reveal himself. Rami Malek is totally underserved by this. He's just getting, Hollywood is just beating the crap out of him. It really sucks, what they did with him. He delivered on the Queen biopic, but the rest of the movie is so terribly put together that it just completely lets him down. That movie with Denzel Washington, where you figure, hey, I'm in a Denzel Washington movie, this is great, and then it turns out terrible. And now this, where he plays arguably the least interesting and the least screen-timed villain in the Bond franchise. The time that he has on screen is incredibly limited, and and you'd think that, he gets the big, the bad guy talking scene, and it's more about him doing the classic child in danger trope than it is about him actually, delivering exposition about his plan or whatever. Oh man, this movie isn't bad. Like, it's not terrible. Like, it's probably the best of the Daniel Craig James Bond movies, but I have a pretty low opinion of all of those. So that's not really high praise from me. Kiri Takanaga. I'm so messing this up. The new director is a really good director. He directed Beasts of No Nations, and he directed the first season of True Crime, which is probably the only good season of that show. He's a talented guy, and he directs action very well, but there's a very mechanical feel to everything. And like I said before, there's a lot of the greatest hits going on here. He's going to say Bond, James Bond, and they're going to find a clever way to set that up. And then he's got the Aston Martin, and he's got just all these callbacks to the past of James Bond, and it really is like a classic rock band just rolling in and playing the greatest hits over and over again. And when you're in a universe where we've seen Jason Bourne and we still have Mission Impossible, James Bond feels ridiculously redundant in this way. He does, because as great as Daniel Craig is as an actor, he's not nearly as magnetic as Tom Cruise, and he's not nearly as exciting as Jason Bourne. He feels like the third wheel. He's just redundant in that way in this genre.
How did it do? Was it massive?
56 million, which is kind of low, on the low end of what they were expecting. Others were predicting somewhere between 75 and 80. But I don't know, maybe coming out the week after Venom might not have been the best thing for this movie.
Well, I'm surprised this wouldn't destroy Venom, if I'm being honest, just because it seems like the Bond movies usually do well. That's why they keep making them. I thought they were all greatest hit movies. Doesn't he say that? Doesn't he say that in every movie? James Bond, shaken, not stirred, blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's just the Rolling Stones.
In fairness, the Rolling Stones are awesome, but
the Rolling Stones are awesome, but James Bond's not. But nevertheless,
yeah.
They're he's Grand Funk Railroad.
Well, they're awesome too, though. I've always hated James Bond movies. The one I liked the most is the very first one with Daniel Craig, though. So
yeah.
But again, my bar is even lower than yours, I think, because I hate all of them. So.
I love A View to a Kill, but not for any reason because it's good. It's hilariously terrible. and Grace Jones is just the best thing about it. Because I've often told the story about how my sister and I still say to check the back seat for Grace Jones because that scene is hilarious.
Yeah, I just don't. one, I like the Bourne movies, but I think a lot of that is there's nothing other. I mean, I guess there's a book, but there's no other than the book. There's nothing from the past because I don't like the Mission Impossible movies either. So I don't know. I guess I like the realism of the Daniel Craig one. I shouldn't say the realism, the lack of joy. I think that's something that appeals to me. And I mean, I think that's honest to God why I like the first one so much. But then I got bored after that, and I just don't care.
There's just nothing fun.
Yeah, and like the Bourne, it's with the Bourne movies, it's a story as well that matters. It's not just all stunts and shit, which is really all I feel about with Mission Impossible. It's just like, what's Tom Cruise going to do next? I don't really care about the movie. I just want to see him hang out of a plane again.
But I think they're constantly inventing something with that franchise. They're constantly coming up with new and exciting things to do, and they're constantly upping the ante on their plots. And it gets to be very involving if you like that.
I would say they're upping the ante in the action, maybe. I don't know. I guess I don't care enough, so it's not fair for me to even make an opinion. I don't know. And then I did hear he dies in this. I don't even know.
This movie is 2.5 hours long. Which is way too long for this.
But that's been
on top of that, you have these whiny Bond fans, talking about how woke culture is ruining James Bond, and that just makes me roll my eyes even more. Like, why can't Bond have sex with girls anymore? He has plenty of sex, guys. He's just with the same woman oftentimes. But then again, I would say, like I said, they've just instead of treating that like it's instead of treating people like people, everything is a commentary on the past. Like, you see how good we are now. He only loves one woman, and he doesn't rape anymore. Like, congratulations, James, on not raping anybody. Great.
Well, and in fairness, from the get-go, they were trying to do as close as possible. I mean, you're never going to be based in reality, but because Bourne existed and, they were not trying to do the corny over the top, or they were trying to take the corn down a little bit. So they were doing, it wasn't just with the sex, it was with everything. They were trying to give it a different approach. He brought in a real director, Sam Mendes, early on. So it's been going on this entire series. So I don't think it's anything new. I don't think it's a strategic move to satisfy woke culture. I think it's just simply they're trying a different approach with Bond. In the end, it's kind of boring, I think, more than anything. And
I tell you, boring is a good way to put it, because, I mean, it's got one of those scenes in it, and it's so long. This scene is so long, but it's one of those scenes where Bond is going up this staircase, and out of every door pops another faceless goon. It's just pop, 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 and they just fall. None of them can even get a shot off. They just pop, 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 and they're down. Up another flight of stairs. Pop, 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 down. Here comes another one, and another one, another one. Like 15, 20, 25, 30 bodies just piling up, and nothing. It's like, it just gets tired. You just grow tired after a while. If I never see that scene again in a movie, I'll be very happy. Because I've seen that. I mean, how many movies do we have to see the good guy who never misses and the bad guys who always miss?
Well, they keep making Bond movies for decades now, so are they going to keep this franchise going, or are they going to start with a new Bond?
They're going to. I think the fan theory that's going around is that it's going to be revealed that James Bond is a title and not a name. It's like he wasn't actually. It'll
be 007 that sticks on, but it's not necessarily Bond, or it could.
The James Bond is a code name that gets handed down. Thus bringing all the James Bond movies into the same canon.
But they have this, so the bad guys' names get handed down too. Because some of these are repeated bad guys, aren't they?
Yeah, Blofeld. Rami Malek's not.
Well, right. But Blofeld, I know that name. I don't even know anything about Bond, so. That's stupid.
It's just a fan theory, but yeah. There is also another 007 in this movie, and she's fine. She does a good job.
That's why woke culture is mad. Now I get it. Don't agree with it, but now I know.
Why are there girls in my spy movie? Why? And they're not showing their boobs. Ugh. That was a perfect impression of them. Like, that was a perfect. No, she's really good, and it's unfortunate though that she's just kind of the killjoy throughout. And she's the few times she does get to show off are okay, but like Ana de Armas comes in and blows everybody else off the screen.
Is her name Jamie Bond?
No.
Okay. I was just asking. I don't know. Wow. So maybe they'll just keep it going with her.
I mean, the end credits do say James Bond will return.
Now, I heard it said 007 will return.
Oh, did it? I didn't actually look at it.
Well, I didn't see it. I'm just going off of a podcast that I heard talk about it. So, I don't know. I really don't care. I'm never going to see him unless, yeah, there's no reason for me to see him. My son doesn't even really care about Bond.
You know, what's funny is that there's going to be all these right-wing websites taking credit for, woke James Bond failed because of us.
Yeah, congratulations. You killed your own franchise. Way to go. God, people are so stupid. I mean, I'll say Hollywood needs to do a better job of making something like that more organic, and I don't know how they do in this movie with it. It sounds like it was fairly organic, but there's times where you just kind of roll your eyes because you can tell they're doing it for marketing purposes.
I didn't feel it. Like there's Phoebe Bridgers did the dialogue up on this, and she did it. The dialogue is better than it's been in the other movies. Nothing notable, no big notable clangers in there. And Lashana Lynch, the new 007, she even goes as far as to give up her 007 title to give it back to Bond as a welcome back to the spy stuff. But so there's really not a lot for these people to be upset about. But since they're not even seeing the movie, they'll still be upset.
Well, and it's fair. As much as I'm not a Star Wars fan, the Star Wars right-wing people were pissed off for the same reason, and I never really even noticed all the woke things they were quote-unquote doing. So I got it a little bit in the Avengers here and there, but for the most part, there was enough going on that I could move on. It didn't bother me. But I didn't notice it in Star Wars. It doesn't sound like it really exists here. It just... people make up their minds without seeing the movie.
Yeah, really pretty much. Trust me, all these right-wing guys came up with their complaints about James Bond well before they ever saw the movie. Two years ago, when Lashana Lynch was announced as being in the next James Bond movie, they were already gathering their pitchforks and coming up with their complaints.
Yeah, that's just what's wrong with opening it up to the other demographic. Make it a little bit bigger.
I thought the right wing was supposed to admire a good business decision, but I don't know.
That's all hypocrisy. All right, let's move on because I've stretched this out longer than I actually care about. So forgive me. South of Heaven, my favorite title of the year.
South of Heaven stars Jason Sudeikis and Evangeline Lilly in the story of a man who is getting out of prison just in time for the last year of his longtime girlfriend's life. Evangeline Lilly's character has lung cancer, and she's been given about 12 months to live at most. And Jason Sudeikis has luckily been given parole to get out, and he promises to spend that entire time making her, giving her the best life possible for while she's still here. But this guy happens to have the worst luck on the planet because once he gets out, he gets a parole officer played by Shea Wiggum, who immediately tries to draw him into a criminal enterprise and uses blackmail to get him there. But even then, something else happens that is completely unexpected and throws the movie in an entirely different direction that invites in Mike Coulter, who plays a big-time gangster drug dealer who hides behind legitimate businesses and looks like a legitimate businessman, but he's also just a big drug dealer. And this, where that goes from there is really unique and different. This movie is really, really good. I loved the way that this movie kept upping the ante. Like, you thought for a while that the Shea Wiggum thing was going to be the plot, and that would be, kind of a cat and mouse thing maybe between him and Shea Wiggum. But then I get to that point nearly halfway through the movie, like, wait a minute. Where's Mike Coulter? He hasn't come in yet. And then the way they bring him in is so dangerous. It's so risky in that moment to go where they go with this story, because you risk losing people's investment in Jason Sudeikis' character, because this is a really, really questionable situation that he's in, that he creates for himself. And then when Mike Coulter comes in, he brings this whole new vibe to the movie. This is a big change. And he has this scene eventually where he and Evangeline Lilly are together, and it is absolutely electric. The two of them, Evangeline Lilly and Mike Coulter, have so much astonishing chemistry. Just that scene just blew my mind. How great that was. And meanwhile, there's this other plot going on with Sudeikis and a little boy that that is filled with surprises and weirdness that ends in a most shocking way. And again, this director is brilliant at finding just ways to really continuously up the ante on this story in ways that risk you being invested in it, because it could grow tiresome or it could be, could seem contrived. How could somebody have this kind of bad luck?
Yeah, I agree with you for the most part. I liked it quite a bit. One kind of, and I go back and forth because I kind of did get pulled out of the movie very, like towards the end, and it was just Mike Coulter's character. The way he comes into this movie is so, I mean, it's memorable. It's fucked up. But then the character kind of centers, and I don't know. I just, the level of danger that he comes in with seems to go away, just out the window, and it just, there's something consistent there that wasn't consistent for me that kind of pulled me out a little bit, where I was just like, well, I wasn't necessarily buying it, I guess would be where I'm at. Because it was, I mean, this guy, what happens? You can't really say what happens without spoiling it, but it's a big deal. It's evil. And I know he's living a double life because he's looking like a legit businessman and all this, but really he's a gangster. And so I get that. And I suppose I buy what Jason Sudeikis did, because because he's got nothing. He has to. I guess it's a bold.
Right.
I don't have a problem with what Sudeikis does, but I just as much as I like the scene you're talking about with Mike Coulter and Evangeline Lilly, I just feel like that darkness had kind of faded away, and I wasn't like mad, but I was questioning it the entire time towards the end there, if that makes any sense. Because he never goes back to that spot where he was when he's introduced in the movie. He's introduced so hard and heavy, and then just kind of, it's so hard to talk about without spoiling anything. That said, if I accept that, everything else is perfect. The ending is quite great. Once I accept that, the stuff with the Sudeikis and the little boy, the way that ends is pretty phenomenal. It's a hell of a movie with just one thing where I find myself questioning stuff. But other than that, which isn't enough to make me dislike it, I think it's worth watching. I'm curious what other people think too.
I found this movie to be exciting. I love the chances that this director takes, the risks that he takes, and introducing a character like Mike Coulter's character halfway into the movie is something that every screenwriting class in the world will tell you not to do. And I love that he took that chance. I was questioning it as I watched it, and then as he developed it and it went along, I was like, "That's awesome. That's bold," you know. And like I said, everybody will tell you not to do that, and he did it, and he pulled it off, and it was amazing to me. But then he kept finding new ways to okay, what do we do now? We're in a corner. Where do we go? We'll go here. He finds another way. And it just over and over again, I really was just on the edge of my seat throughout, just really enjoying where this was going. And I bought in on Jason Sudeikis, which is, this is
Absolutely.
not a typical Jason Sudeikis role. But I thought he really pulled it off. People, I had this really irritating thing happen where I was reading somebody who's a pretty good critic talking about this movie, and he says, well, you know, Jason Sudeikis is John Wick. And I'm like, that is so reductive and insulting. There is nothing John Wick about this. Not to say that John Wick is bad. I love John Wick. John Wick is exciting. It's incredible gunplay. That's not this movie. This movie's got a much different vibe going on. This is a very serious drama happening here, whereas John Wick is not a serious drama.
Yeah, that's a terrible comparison. There's the feel. They're two totally different feels. I couldn't disagree more with that statement. And one thing about Jason Sudeikis is, and I haven't watched this show on Apple, and I know, you know, I've read a couple critics saying don't call this Jason Sudeikis Go Serious because he's been doing it for a while, I guess, on TV. But he does have a Leslie Nielsen-like quality to him where no matter what he does, you tend to want to laugh, but it's not in this movie. So yeah. I appreciate them finding a way to make that not exist, because that's really impressive, because he just had that thing. If he delivered a line serious in movies, sometimes you would just laugh because that's what he's always done. And that's really impressive to me that doesn't exist in this movie.
He manages to do that without, like, you know, he doesn't go full, you know, badass. He's just he manages to find a way to retain the likability without being overly goofy. Aside from a couple scenes with the kid, which are just, you know, him just being being a natural good person, and their interplay is, you know, is kind of funny, because that kid is really funny. That kid is really sharp. He's a sharp performer, and Sudeikis is just keeping up with him.
Well, and it's funny because they play it straight. They're not playing it for laughs, and that's why it ends up being funny. I definitely recommend it, and I'm curious what other people think about, especially what kind of took me out of it. But at the same time, to your point about they back themselves into a corner, when they find a way out, it's not every time they do it. It's such a left turn, or what? Not even a left. It's just so out there that it's hard to even think of where they would go. You know, it's just like, oh, that's okay. Let's see where this goes. And I don't know. It's a neat little movie, and quite frankly, if they stuck with Wiggum's character, that would have been. It definitely would have lowered the ceiling on how good this could have been, because now you got a pretty typical movie. What we've seen before, but making that bold choice allows for great failure. Don't get me wrong, but then it raises your ceiling for potential. And if nothing else, I love the fact that it felt original, and because that's something that we've been complaining about for a few years now. So true. And I mean, there's a lot of. Go ahead.
I think the Shea Wiggum thing was a definite choice. The way he plays that role, so it's so great and on the top, and then removing him the way they do is so awesome. Like that series of scenes was so cool. I really enjoyed that a lot, because I hated that character, and that scene between Wiggum and Sudeikis early on, where Sudeikis is trying to say the right thing, and this guy will not accept any of the right answers. Everything's the wrong answer to him, and it's just you could not find two people on opposite sides. That's so well written, and
back to your comment right off the bat about just the bad luck Sudeikis has. In a lesser movie, which a lot of movies have done this, it's just a comedy of bad luck and errors. Ben Stiller's in a lot of these movies where you just have bad luck, and it just doubles down on the person. Sudeikis keeps making decisions that you don't see in movies like that, or you don't see in movies really, that allow him to stand up to his bad luck over and over again, and I guess that could be somewhere. Well, sometimes why I have. Again, I don't want to say I have trouble buying it. At times I question things. It's not. I was never fully taken out of the movie, but because of that, it's just different. So there's nothing redundant about it, and I mean, bold is a good word because there's definitely a lot of bold choices made throughout. I definitely think people should see it, and it's available to watch right now.
Weird coincidence. Just point this out. Shea Wiggum, this is not the first time he starred in a movie called South of Heaven. He actually starred in a movie called South of Heaven back in 2008, which is a completely different movie.
Yeah, I saw pictures of that when I was looking up this one. I mean, it's a cool title. I mean, obviously Slayer had an album called South of Heaven. I think of Hell. But that's what's even cooler is that cheesy title. As much as I like it, it's definitely cheesy. But when you put it in this movie, it's not. I don't know. It just
considering all the complex things at play, like her dying and where they end up, and
right. There's just more depth to the title in this. No, a hell of a movie, and I definitely recommend people watching it. You told me to check this one out, but I didn't. Ran out of. Well, I had to work, and I didn't. It's hard to read while I'm not necessarily looking at the screen. So I watched 2 Kevin Smith movies and My Cousin Vinny. Detention.
Detention is a Taiwanese horror film that was made back in 2019 and is now getting an American release courtesy of Decathlon. And it tells a horror movie story, but it's also telling a historic story about the times of when Taiwan was under martial law, one of the longest lasting martial law situations in world history. Second only, I think, to gosh, I can't remember now, but there's one other country that's actually been under martial law longer than Taiwan. In this martial law, you're not allowed to speak in any way against the government, and any type of criticism of the government is basically considered for the death penalty. In this environment, this group of school kids and 2 teachers are reading books that they shouldn't be reading. They're hiding out in a closet, essentially, passing back and forth these banned books and writing them down, copying out of them and reading them and taking in these sort of left-wing socialist ideas that they're not supposed to be hearing. When that gets found out, the movie takes a very weird and dark and horror turn because suddenly the scene becomes degraded and the school is empty and there, it seems like something has happened, like this massive apocalypse has taken place. And now there's a giant monster running around, and it's gobbling up students, and specifically gobbling up the students who were learning about socialism and reading banned books. There's one female character she's not in the group, but she finds out about the group sort of accidentally. And she's also kind of in love with the male teacher who's involved, and they've got kind of a romantic relationship going on. Meanwhile, there's the boy who accidentally showed her this book also has a thing for her. So there's kind of a love triangle happening there that's going to play a very important role in the turn of this movie. And her role is so well crafted and so well put together that she really, with the entire story turning on what she does, you really buy into to why she does it, and it's kind of villainous, but at the same time she's coming around on being a better person because of it, even in this very strange situation. This is a terrific movie. This was actually based off of a video game, which carried the same story and did the same thing. Told this very important commentary on martial law and Taiwanese history within this horror movie story. The monsters are really great. Some of the CGI is a little bit rubbery, but and it's got a couple of those rather, one of those at least callbacks to The Ring, where there's the girl with the long hair in front of her face and the pale. It's still kind of creepy. It still kind of works. That's a visual that's probably always going to work for some people. And it kind of works here. And contextually, I guess, when you're talking about who that girl is, it certainly does play into the scarier aspects of this. That it's a really good movie, and I'm glad I got to see it.
It sounds amazing. And again, sounds wholly original, like a really cool idea that Hollywood would find a way to ruin.
A very serious story, but it's also a horror movie. Like the horror elements are big and broad, and they're like monsters, like literal monsters in the movie. And it's also telling a story about actual Taiwanese history and important lessons that were learned, and the beauty of poetry in the end is kind of part of it as well. And I just love that.
Well, it's cool to do. I love when there's actual monsters in a movie, and the movie itself is actually phenomenal. And so it's like, no matter how childish, whatever you want to call this is, they find a way to make it matter and make it work. And I wish I was in a position to have watched this yesterday. I'll have to give it a shot when I get a chance, because it looks really good. Prisoners of the Ghostland.
Yes, our Nicolas Cage winning streak is over. Prisoners of the Ghostland is a terrible movie about a man who is a bank robber, and he gets thrown in prison, and then the daughter or girlfriend, or I don't know, some important governor in this strange sort of Asia-America hybrid that's going on in the future. He takes Cage out of prison and forces him to go into this Ghostland to retrieve his girlfriend, daughter, played by Sophia Boutella. In order to control Cage, he puts him in this suit that's covered in bombs, and there are bombs on his arms, there are bombs on his legs, there's bombs on his testicles. And if he puts a hand on Sophia Boutella and he gets excited, his balls will explode.
Or if he gets angry, his arms will explode. Yeah,
if he hits somebody, if he hits her, his arms will explode. This movie is so bad. This is Cage at his absolute worst. And the thing of it is, it's not him overacting. It's pretty much him underacting in this situation, which is kind of strange, because he spends more time in this movie laying on his face on the ground than he does actually doing something. I mean, the poster for this movie has Nicolas Cage with a giant samurai sword, and you get to see a little bit of that, like him as a fighter, but not really all that much. And certainly not nearly enough to be satisfying or cool. Like, most of the first half of the movie, he's just laying on the ground. And I hated this so much. There's a lot of big, bold production design in this, but there's never any explanation as to why. It's just this is like some teenager's fever dream of a comic book. It's like, I got to put Nicolas Cage in my manga and put it on the big screen. Like, okay, great. Good for you, I guess. If you like that sort of thing, maybe this is your movie. I am not a fan.
Well, that's the thing, is I think more than it being bad is it's just not for us. Because when Mad Max came out, Fury Road, we all liked that, but we went back and watched the other Mad Max movies and we just didn't get it. Like, we tried, and I don't know. I don't get the appeal of those movies, and this is very much in the vein of those. You'd never see Mad Max really do anything cool. He's not on the screen half the time. And to me, this is like Mad Max meets Escape from New York. Just some post-apocalyptic thing where he's got a mission to do. He's got bombs attached to him. If he doesn't get it done, he'll die, blah, blah, blah. I appreciate the over-the-top set design. I appreciate everything, how serious they all took it. It wasn't like, let's just make a camp movie. They were just like, we're really going to try to make this as cool as possible. And I can see an audience that would find this cool. I just don't think we're it.
No.
I'm certainly not. I hate reading the wildest movie I've ever made, and I think that's Nicolas Cage that apparently said that, but Mandy is way wilder than this was.
Oh, absolutely. And Mandy's a really good movie.
Right. But again, but people are going to hate that one as well because it's weird and different, and so I get it. Part of me was like, we're going to see Nicolas Cage's balls and he's going to throw testicle bombs, and I was kind of excited about all that, and none of that happens.
So much promise and so little delivery.
And I suppose if I didn't have that opinion going in, maybe I would have liked it more. I doubt it though. It's just not a movie I'm into. Fury Road was cool just because of I don't know. That was just a full-blown action masterpiece. Everything else, Mad Max, bores the piss out of me. And this, I think I like this more than the other Mad Max movies, if I'm being honest. But yeah. It's not a movie. I'm not going to go back and watch this.
I probably do as well, but
I really don't like the Mad Max movies.
I will say I'm tickled by the fact that while I was watching this movie, I actually uttered the phrase "testicles don't work that way."
Well, and even the meme where he yells "testicles," when you watch that in context, it's way less funny.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. Then the meme should have never happened, and instead you get a typical good Nicolas Cage delivery. But because of the meme, it totally ruins it. So I don't know. It's I guess calling it disappointing is fine. I don't think it's for us more than anything. I don't think there's really anything bad about it. It just isn't entertaining to me.
Can you imagine how uncomfortable it would if you took this outfit and these testicles to be what you see in this movie? How it would be even more uncomfortable to just have to wear that, let alone to have a bomb go off on one of your testicles. Just the separation alone would be too much discomfort for me.
Well, and that's if they did it right, they don't. I mean, your comment of testicles don't work that way is accurate. And the way the suit was set up, the testicles wouldn't even be there. It'd be like this hip or something like that.
Right.
But it's cool to show a blown up ball on the ground, I guess. And at no point is it like, are you like grabbing yourself like, oh, that hurts? So, you're not feeling his pain. You're just kind of,
it's far funnier to talk about even than it is to see.
Right. But I mean, the rest, like the whole Ghostland, it's a pretty impressive set for whatever this movie cost. I can't imagine it was a ton.
Yeah.
So I'll give it that, and I'm surprised we talked this long about it. But I'm not going to call it a miss. I'm just going to call it not for me.
I'm going to call it one of my top 10 worst movies of the year.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to hate something I don't think is for me. If there was something like structurally wrong with it, I would, but I just don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just blah. Let's move on to our classic, God Told Me To.
God Told Me To is a 1976 movie from director Larry Cohen, who's known for this show because we did The Stuff on this show, and he directed The Stuff. Huh. He has also directed the Maniac Cop movies. And the stars Tony LoBianco as a cop who is investigating a series of crimes where every time they seem to get to the person who committed the crime, that person says, God told me to. And he seems to be the only cop who thinks this is notable. For some reason, every other cop is like, so? They all said that. So all crazy people say that. After each of these murders, you don't think there's something there? Nevertheless, he's the only one who sees something in that and begins to investigate from that perspective. This is a very confusing movie at times. Things seem to happen where it's like, when did that happen? At a certain point, Tony LoBianco's character is suspended from the police, but we're never told why or when that happened. Like, I'm watching the movie and he like has an argument with his boss, but there's nothing about him being suspended. They're just saying, like, you're pursuing the wrong thing, get your act together. And then the following scene is a suspended cop does this, and I'm like, when was he suspended? When did that happen? Should you have told us that? But honestly, though, there are aspects of this that are really good, like really good. Like the opening scene of this shooter who is on top of a water tower in New York City is tense and exciting and well shot. Like the chaos is exciting, and even when Tony LoBianco is climbing up the side of that water tower and talk to him, I almost felt like I don't know Tony LoBianco that well. Maybe this guy's gonna shoot him. Like I was kind of on edge with that, and the way they set that scene up, the production design of that, the camera choices in that are really smart. It really does up the tension of that moment, and each subsequent crime kind of has that feel to it. There's a scene where Andy Kaufman is one of the killers in the movie, and he's a cop who's marching in a parade, and Bianca is told by somebody that he's going to shoot, a cop is going to do a mass shooting at a parade. And that is a really tense series of scenes. The way he builds that is really strong. And then the payoff is a shootout. And we get the line, God told me to. And it's like that build is great. There's a certain point, though, where you want that to be the story and you want there to be a payoff to that. But then it goes in a different direction, in a slightly more confusing and awkward direction involving aliens and virgin birth. And that sort of loses the plot for me. I want to like this movie more than I do because I think there's exciting elements to it. But I think it's kind of a miss because that alien stuff just doesn't pay off enough for me.
Yeah, you asked. I saw it before you did, and you asked me what I thought. It was hard to. There's a good movie in here. Mm-hmm. And even with the virgin birth alien thing, if you have to go that way, I really don't know how you make that work, but definitely the way they did it just the whole brother thing. I don't know that I didn't like that at all. I don't know. This is kind of like a movie I want to see remade and then properly remade, but with the ability to change the story. Because I mean, one, that warning label is real. That's on the cover of this poster. Those scenes are intense. And in 1976, I could imagine that being almost too real.
Yeah.
So that's a very earned warning label that they put on the front of the movie. And what you could do with that today is you really don't even have to do much different. Just more modern. It's not about upping the ante. Just if you could find a way to cut the fat and then find a place to go with this. There's an amazing movie there, but there
is. This was so frustrating for me because I wanted the whole God told me to thing to actually pay off, and it really doesn't. Like once they shift gears into the alien plot, we lose the whole God told me to part of this. And it never, the Richard Lynch character who's at the center of the evil that's taking place never pays off. Like we're never given a good solid reason why he decided to do that, why he was having people do these mass killings. And I wanted to know what his plan was. And I wanted that to have a big payoff, and it's just not there. And instead we've got this alien plot and virgin births, and these scenes and Tony LoBianco having an alien background as well, that it just doesn't play nearly as interesting as the God told me to stuff.
Well, the virgin births and the alien, it flirts with a God thing, But when you throw the Tony Lobianco character into that story, part of the story too, that's really what took me out of it.
I think what they were going for, there's an element of what they're going for in the pool house, in the pool room scene, where he goes into this pool room and he starts to use the power himself. And this is an element of him being influenced, or kind of giving into his own sort of darkness in this way. But I don't think that's set up well enough. I don't like that. It doesn't feel like, because he's killing bad guys and forcing these bad guys to kill themselves, and it doesn't have the impact of the innocent person suddenly turning evil. And there's a great scene here where he's confronting a guy who's just murdered his entire family, and the description of the murder is better than actually seeing the murders themselves. The way that Lobianco plays that scene with that opposite that guy who's just so serene and so calm and so committed to the idea that God told him to do this, and the way he describes what he did to his family is so much more chilling than actually seeing it. And that movie is really good. And I wanted that movie and I didn't get it.
Yeah, I have a story. I can't decide if I want to tell on the podcast or not. Somebody that I'll just keep it high. I won't go into detail how I know this person, but they're kind of important to what I do. Just out of the blue today, I started talking about reincarnation and what happens when you die, and how once you die, you have to kind of wait in heaven for 400 years and you get reincarnated. But if you kill yourself, you come right back. You have 28 things in your life that we all got to accomplish, and then you can move on to the next world. And this wasn't a matter of opinion. Mm-hmm. It was a matter of fact.
Wow.
And he was telling, if you just look at history, clearly you can tell. And the reason I know is I saw the light when I was 16 and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just kind of sitting there trying to find jokes to make when I can without being insulting. Just kind of being sounding disappointed when, so hell doesn't exist? That sucks. Kind of but it would just, this is a smart person who is important to things that I have to do, and all of a sudden it just I can't
believe Josh would say something like that.
Yeah, but you just, that's why people never cease to amaze me, I guess, because it's just
yeah,
it's totally blew my mind, and that just talking about this movie kind of brought that back into my head. I don't know. I liked the idea. I'm all for if you want to make a god in this movie and make it work, but it's just too convoluted.
Let me just pitch something here for you. Wouldn't it be fascinating if Lobianco, he's this character who is deeply religious, and he's following up on these murders where people are saying, God told me to. And then he reaches the end, meets the actual God, and God says, yes, I did tell them to. And he's got to deal with the fact that God's actually needed this to happen for a reason. He's setting something up for the future that you can't see. And these tragedies needed to happen in this way, in this order. And as sad and horrible as it is, I had to do it because down the road, this needs to happen. Thought taking that character who's deeply faithful and having him to confront a God who does orchestrate terrible things to happen, kind of forcing him to confront his own faith, that's an exciting idea.
Oh, and it's very biblical too. That's because that's kind of happened.
Yeah.
In some of the biblical stories, you could definitely, that would be
earth shattering for him, as a character. It would, that would be exciting to watch.
Yeah, because then at that point, what do? Obviously, you can't beat God,
right?
So that would be. Again, if they're just, you trim the fat and took this in the direction like that, and you'd have a fantastic movie, a really great.
You could even make that without aliens.
Yeah, I suppose. If you had to.
Well, without aliens, there's no boobs in the movie. So what are you going to do?
That is true as well. Yeah, I wanted to like it. I was trying. And there's enough. I mean, I definitely think it's a miss, like you said, but I there's part of me that's fascinated by it and the idea and just having this discussion of what it could have been.
Yeah. Well, because like you said, there's so many good things in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The scene I described before is a really great scene. The Andy Kaufman scene is a really great scene. Like, he knows what he's doing. He's got a great idea here, but he's rushing through that idea to get to a dumber idea.
Right. But it's fun to say I saw something new.
Yeah.
Next week, we've got... let me get my screen back here. Stop share for now. We've got The Last Duel. That's the Matt Damon movie, right?
Yeah, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Apparently they kissed in this movie.
They wrote the movie. Ben Affleck's in it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was like Adam Driver.
Yeah, Adam Driver's in the movie too.
Oh, cool. Halloween Kills. See that on Peacock.
That's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I don't know why I find that weird that it's on Peacock and not HBO or Netflix or whatever.
Right.
Because that's less weird to me. But yeah, that's also in theaters. And then you're going to see The Blazing World and Bergman Island. And if either of those are great, maybe I'll try to watch one as well. Our classic is the A24 film Saint Maud, and who knows, maybe Lamb will end up here.
That would be nice. That would be very nice. I want to see Lamb so bad. I've seen so many amazing reviews.
I can't even imagine what it is. Yeah. And while I'm going to see Halloween Kills, I know it's going to be disappointing. Sorry, Mike. All right. That is our show. Be sure to check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/criticspod. Listen to our bonus discussion of Nirvana's Nevermind. That should be out here within the next week. And then the next month after that, the Black Album by Metallica. Only the Patreon supporters can hear that, at least for now. We're live on YouTube, so click on the bell to get notifications when we're live. And if you follow us on our social media sites, you will also be able to get notified when we are live. Let's do a quick round of Flick Chart, because I got to get up in a few hours, as I'm sure you do as well. Me, Myself, and Irene are 10,000 BC.
Me, Myself, and Irene.
Agreed. Ghostbusters 2, Minding the Gap.
I've not seen Minding the Gap.
Neither have I. Ghostbusters 2, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Where are you going on this? Because I don't hate Ghostbusters 2, but I don't love it. I'm not a big fan.
I have a lot of nostalgia with Ghostbusters 2. However, I haven't seen Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So
let's just go with Ghostbusters 2.
All right. The Icebreaker, Bridesmaids.
No, I've not seen Icebreaker.
Neither have I.
Looks Russian.
It does. Go, Bridesmaids.
That's tough. I love both those movies. Gosh. Bridesmaids is probably more consistently good. Go has some spots that are kind of iffy.
Yeah. I'll call it recency bias. It's been 20 years since I saw one and 10 since I saw the other. A Man Called Ove.
I've not seen that one either.
That's a record this episode. Fun with Dick and Jane and Sphere. Two movies that who gives a shit about.
Right. Fun with Dick and Jane's better than Sphere, I guess, but that's a pretty low bar.
Yeah. I read Sphere and I loved it, but that was because I was a kid. Never watched the movie. Zootopia, The Golden Compass.
Zootopia. Because it's shorter.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. I hit the wrong button. All right, we'll just start over. The Rookie, Master and Commander.
Master and Commander.
Absolutely.
The Rookie was such a mediocre thing.
No shit. The Thing, The Cell.
The Thing.
Absolutely. Feeding
Nope.
the Doves from 1896.
1896. Somehow we've not seen that one.
Heavenly Puss. Have you seen that? Octopussy Syriana. They wanted to keep the puss thing going.
Syriana.
Yeah. Lethal Weapon 2, The Color of Money.
Color of Money for me.
I'd go Lethal Weapon 2. Let's see. God damn it. Oh, I won one. I mean, I know Color of Money. The Color of Money's fine.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's like groundbreakingly great. Bad Santa, The Land Before Time.
I'm not sure if I've seen The Land Before Time. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Has Bad Santa better?
I couldn't even. I loved it as a kid. And
Bad Santa?
No. The Land Before Time. I mean, I liked Bad Santa a lot when it came out. I haven't really gone back and watched it. They're like polar opposite movies.
I don't think Bad Santa nearly lives up to the reputation it has, but
I'll go Land Before Time because it's sad. At least it was when I was a kid. I don't remember it anymore. I just remember it's kind of like Bambi sad.
Yeah.
Night Shift, Titus.
Night Shift.
Yeah.
Titus should have been good, but it wasn't.
Pitch Perfect, The Man with the Golden Gun.
Picture Perfect.
Picture Perfect. Sorry.
Not James Bond.
Yeah. Rear Window, National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1.
Rear Window.
Yeah, it was pretty easy. The Adjustment Bureau, Flags of Our Fathers.
Flags of Our Fathers isn't a bad movie, but The Adjustment Bureau is more fun.
Oh, really? I'll let you pick whichever one you want.
I'm going to go Adjustment Bureau just because I would probably watch. I never want to see Flags of Our Fathers again in my life, as much as I might admire its craftsmanship.
Yeah. Was Adjustment Bureau the one Obama said sucked after Matt Damon insulted him as a president? Anyway, The Dark Knight or Big Mama's House.
It's The Dark Knight.
Yeah. Paul, Dr. Seuss, How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
I love Paul. Paul's a great movie.
Which is so fucking weird is it's the Shaun of the Dead guys without Edgar Wright, who's probably a better filmmaker, yet Paul's my favorite of all the movies they did. Robin Hood Men in Tights, Saw 4.
Saw 4. I love Robin Hood Men in Tights, but Saw 4 is awesome.
Yeah, I start to go out after Saw 3, but I've never seen Robin Hood Men in Tights. Final Destination, The Virgin Suicides.
Virgin Suicides.
Yeah, Arlington Road, Shaft.
Arlington Road.
Yes. Time Cop, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers.
It's for all the wrong reasons, because Time Cop is terrible, but I love watching Time Cop so much that I have to pick it.
Yeah, I
just love watching it. I can't stop. If it's on, I will stop and watch Time Cop every time. Watching Rod Silver accidentally touch himself and then like melt into like two people puddle on the ground is just so funny to me. Oh,
I'm absolutely with you.
It's just so funny. I have to reward it for being that entertaining, for being terrible.
Yeah, and one of the Kevin Smith movies I watched was Clerks 2. So, yeah, I think this is a perfect one to go out on. Time Cop wins over Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. There you go, Josh. Have a great night.